Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Not every miracle happens in a single dramatic moment. Some are hidden in daily survival, in heat, shortage of resources, fear, and hard work. Madam Little Lamb grew up in a very rural corner of Hong Kong, where simple living required strength far beyond her years. This is her story.
When I was little, I grew up in a rural area of Hong Kong, far away from the city comforts people take for granted today. Our house was simple, with metal tin sheets covering part of the roof and walls. In summer, the heat pressed down on and around us endlessly. The air barely moved, and nights felt not much cooler than the days. Mosquitoes were everywhere. They bit me so often that the skin of my legs especially was always covered in long-standing marks. People even gave me a nickname, Spotted Deer, because my legs looked spotted like a deer's. It caused constant swelling, itchiness, and open wounds from time to time, resulting in long-standing scars, all of which was very uncomfortable. But back then, no one complained much about these. You just endured. We had no water supply inside the house. Every day I had to fetch water from a nearby village well. There was no natural gas either, so firewood had to be collected from the mountains or bought from some construction sites and transported back home for cooking use. Even feeding the pigs meant going outside to pick wild greens. Life wasn't about choice. It was about necessity. At first, we used candles for light. Later, we switched to kerosene lamps, the kind that filled the room with a faint, nasty smell and flickering shadows. It wasn't until the mid-1970s that electricity finally reached us, along with gas stored in metal cans. Those changes felt like huge blessings as single air conditioning unit could be bought, which was an absolute treat due to it kept mosquitoes away and brought cool temperatures to deal with extreme heat in summer. But they came after years of hardship. Living in the rural area meant that every single day was filled with tasks just to make it through. There were always things to prepare, things to fix, things to gather. Rest felt rare and comfort felt distant. When I was about 10 years old, one late afternoon after a long day of work since early morning, I was about to climb into my bed because I felt so exhausted that I urgently needed a short nap. Just as I was about to lie down, something caught the corner of my eye. I froze. There was a long green snake in my bed curling into a big circle under my blanket. I ran out of the room screaming with fear for help from my mum, who came for my rescue. She struck the head of the snake to kill it, believing it was a poisonous snake which is normally found around bamboo bushes, apparently. What would have happened if I hadn't noticed it in that split second? I couldn't resist imagining what a natural consequence could have been. For years, I've been haunted by this anticipated fear whereby, following this incident, I always check what's under my blanket before getting into any bed. That moment of fear stayed with me for the rest of my life. From that day on, I became deeply afraid of snakes. The fear ran so deep that years later, I even delayed my wedding by half a year just to avoid getting married in the year of the snake. Looking back, I believe that was not just luck. God protected me. In the Bible, the snake was cursed to crawl on the ground the majority of the time. It would normally strike people's heel from below, but its head can be crushed. That afternoon, God reminded me that fear does not have the final authority. He does. Growing up in those conditions shaped me hugely. The heat, the discomfort of mosquito bites, the shortage of resources, the fear of snakes, and the endless work tasks taught me resilience early in life. What felt harsh at the time became the foundation that carried me through everything that followed. I don't really enjoy living in a very rural area due to fear of snakes and dislike of mosquitoes. If there's a choice, I would rather choose to live in a city or suburban area with cooler and drier weather conditions.
Madam Little Lamb's childhood reminds us that survival itself can be a testimony. Under tin roofs, beside wells, and through quiet dangers, God was already watching over her life. Sometimes protection doesn't come with noise or drama. It comes in a split second, a spared moment, a narrow escape, or possibly through some trivial incident. And those many ordinary or otherwise moments shape who we become. The Bible words for this episode are Genesis 3 verses 14 to 15. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou have done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.